Hey guys, Jordan here. In this video, we're going to be talking about gear for real estate photography. So let's get into it. All right, so if you're new to real estate photography, make sure to subscribe as I put out consistent content about real estate photography. This video is based on a video that I made. I put a real estate photography basics video out in less than 5 minutes. And Julio Tamayo says, great video. It actually makes... Actually, if you haven't seen that video, I'll link to it in the description, but it says, great video. It actually makes me see real estate photography less intimidating. I do have a question and would really appreciate it if you could help me out on this. Everybody is talking about full frame and high-end cameras, but you just mentioned a cell phone. Well, my question is this. I own a Lumix G95 and a GX85. Are these cameras with the 2x crop factor? So those are Panasonic cameras. They have the micro four thirds cameras, sensors, and the lower dynamic range. Is it enough to start in this business? Thanks for advice. You know, I think I've owned and I've shot with Panasonic GH4s. What was the other one? A G7, I think. And you can get a solid product from a micro four thirds lens. From my experience, you know, the camera bodies are pretty cheap themselves. That's a great entry-level camera, like a G7 or a GH4, or even the ones that you have. But I think you have to get the Panasonic, I think it's a 7 to 14 millimeter lens to make it appropriate for real estate photography. I think that's the wide-angle lens that Panasonic makes. So you got to have a good pairing, a good lens for that. So if you have that lens, I think that lens is pretty expensive. So, you know, there are some more... cost-friendly, but if you already have the camera body, getting the lens probably isn't that big of a deal. So 7 to 14 is my recommendation. Hold on, what else was your question? Yeah, you mentioned that people will talk about these high-end cameras, and I was talking about a cell phone, right? In my opinion, it doesn't matter the tool that you're using. Yes, some tools perform better than others, and they make it easier to edit. You might have some better dynamic range on certain cameras or some better camera options, right? And that's why we use the cameras that we use, because they have the options that make it easier for us to shoot and to edit at the end of the day. And they capture a lot of information. But the cameras that you did mention, I think they're appropriate for real estate photography. They may not have as good of dynamic range. And when people talk about dynamic range, typically they're talking about video. If you're shooting RAW with most bodies that have been manufactured over the last 10 years, you can get some pretty good detail from shadows and highlights. And if you wanted me to review your photos, you can send a link to it in the comments below. I'll take a look at your raw images coming straight out of your camera, but you definitely need to have a wide angle lens paired with that camera body to make it appropriate for real estate photography. And I think that's the biggest variable. It's not necessarily the camera body and does it have great dynamic range or not. It's just does it have an appropriate lens where you can capture what you need for real estate photography. So anyways, that's it for this video. If you got value, hit the like button, and we'll see you guys on the next one.